Hi, friends, and welcome back for another Read Aloud. Guess what? I got a copy of the book, so now I don't have to put a picture on the screen covering up my face. Special shout out to Mrs. Bennett for lending me a copy. I was able to pick it up yesterday at Center School during the teacher appreciation drive-through. I'll tell you more about that in our morning meeting. Anyways, we're on chapter 4, and in chapter 3, Opal asks her father, the preacher, to tell her 10 things about her mom because she hasn't really spent much time with her mom. We don't really know where she went, but Opal doesn't really know anything about her. So now that she's 10 years old, she says that it's time, Dad, for you to tell me 10 things, one for each year that I've been alive. Chapter 4. 1, said the preacher. We were sitting on the couch, and Winn-Dixie was sitting between us. Winn-Dixie had already decided that he liked the couch a lot. 1, said the preacher again. Winn-Dixie looked at him kind of hard. Your mama was funny. She could make just about anybody laugh. 2, he said. She had red hair and freckles. Just like me, I said. Just like you, the preacher nodded. 3, she liked to plant things. She had a talent for it. She could stick a tire in the ground and grow a car. What does that mean? She could stick a tire in the ground and grow a car? It means she's a good gardener. She could plant anything and make something grow from it. Even if it's a tire, a car would grow out of it. Winn-Dixie started chewing on his paw, and I tapped him on the head to make him stop. 4, said the preacher. She could run fast. If you were racing her, you couldn't ever let her get a head start because she would beat you for sure. I'm that way too, I said. Back home in Watley, I raced Liam Fullerton and beat him, and he said it wasn't fair because boys and girls shouldn't race each other to begin with. I told him he was just a sore loser. The preacher nodded. He was quiet for a minute. I'm ready for number 5, I told him. 5, he said. She couldn't cook. She burned everything, including water. She had a hard time opening a can of beans. She couldn't make head nor tail of a piece of meat. 6. The preacher rubbed his nose and looked up at the ceiling. Winn-Dixie looked up too. Number 6 is that your mama loved a story. She would sit and listen to stories all day long. She loved to be told a story. She especially liked funny ones, stories that made her laugh. The preacher nodded his head like he was agreeing with himself. What's number 7? I asked. Let's see, he said. She knew all of the constellations, every planet in the nighttime sky, every last one of them. She could name them and point them out, and she never got tired of looking up at the stars. Number 8, said the preacher, with his eyes closed. Number 8 was that she hated being a preacher's wife. She said she just couldn't stand having the ladies at church judge what she was wearing and what she was cooking and how she was singing. She said it made her feel like a bug under a microscope. So kind of what he's saying there is because the preacher is somebody that people look up to in the community. Because she was the preacher's wife, everybody kind of looked at her as well to make sure she was always doing the right thing. Because somebody like a preacher is always supposed to be doing the right thing. That's what they preach. They have to practice what they preach. So the 8th thing that the preacher tells Opal is that her mama didn't like being the wife of a preacher. She didn't like when all the eyes of the people in town were on her. She felt like a bug under a microscope being watched. I wonder if that's part of the reason why she's not there anymore. Winn-Dixie lay down on the couch. He put his nose in the preacher's lap and his tail in mine. 10, said the preacher. 9, I told him. 9, said the preacher. She drank. She drank beer and whiskey and wine. Sometimes she couldn't stop drinking, and that made me and your mama fight quite a bit. Number 10, he said with a long sigh. Number 10 is that your mama loved you. She loved you very much. But she left me, I told him. She left us, said the preacher softly. I could see him pulling his old turtle head back into his stupid turtle shell. She packed her bags and left us, and she didn't leave one thing behind. Okay, I said. I got up off the couch. Winn-Dixie hopped off too. Thank you for telling me, I said. I went right back to my room and wrote down all 10 things that the preacher had told me. I wrote them down just the way he said them to me so that I couldn't and wouldn't forget them. And then I read them out loud to Winn-Dixie until I had them memorized. I wanted to know those 10 things inside and out. That way, if my mama ever came back, I could recognize her and I would be able to grab her and hold on to her tight and not let her get away from me again. Chapter 5. That's a pretty intense chapter. So we learn possibly why her mama left. She didn't like being the preacher's wife. And she also had a problem. She was an alcoholic, somebody who can't control how much alcohol they drink. So even though Opal hears these things, at the end of that chapter, she still writes them all down. She wants and she hopes that her mom will come back. And she writes them down so that hopefully, if she does come back, she'll be able to recognize her. It seems like Opal and her mom also have a lot of things in common. They both are fast runners and they both have red hair and freckles. So I wonder if Opal's feeling like she's missing that part of her, missing her mom. It also seems like the preacher doesn't like talking about these things because as soon as he's finished saying them, he goes back into his turtle shell. So he kind of goes back inside himself. Okay, so that's chapter 4. Whew, that's a big one. Let's see what happens in chapter 5 next time.